In sports, the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story, but Netflix does. Stories about dads who happen to be world-class quarterbacks and a battle for the heart, soul, and direction of the multi-billion-dollar business of F1. Whether you're a diehard fan or you're brand new, Netflix has the stories for every type of fan. You can watch these incredible sports stories like Quarterback, F1 Drive to Survive, Untold, and many more now on Netflix.
Welcome to the Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire podcast. Hello, Merry Christmas. Welcome back after Christmas break. Once again to Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire. The Westerer is Besterer podcast. Joining me as always is Big M. How are we, Mart? How are things?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Brilliant Christmas. Just fed up with the mess of all the toys everywhere now.
See, mine are a bit bigger. I don't have mess. I just have the stroppiness. I just have the, why do I have to get up before midday? That's what I get now.
Why can't I have chocolate for breakfast, Dad?
Yeah, I get all of that now. So it would be lovely to sit and discuss Christmas and the happiness and the joy that Christmas brings. But then straight after Christmas comes Boxing Day, and that kind of ruined it for me. So we're going to skip the happiness and the cheeriness and the joy that was there, and we're going to discuss Boxing Day. And before we do, I'm just going to let our listeners know that up until now, we've always tried to kind of make it family friendly. We've tried to, hold back on some of the language and make it so that everyone can listen to it, and you don't have to worry about put it on in a car if the kids are there and all of that kind of malarkey. So this week, if your kids are listening, this is not one for the kids to listen to.
No holds barred.
This is, that's how bad that game was. That's how bad that referee was, that if you want to listen to this podcast, send your kids out the room now, because it was bollocks, is what it was. That referee was fucking bollocks. Absolutely.
Oh, you've gone straight in for it. Well done.
I tell you what, mate. From that first decision, even before the red card, from the kickoff, where there was a bit of back and forth. Webb went to kick it, so he knocks it backwards. Fine, fair enough. But then the referee stops Fafita from charging. Yeah. He turns to Fafita and he says, no, leave, as if the ball is still in the ruck. And the ball isn't in the ruck because the ball is out. No. So straight away, 3 minutes in, instead of us attacking the ball in the Ospreys 22, which is where we should have been, he could have been through on that one. Webb gets another go to clear it. So from that point on, that was 3 minutes in, I was livid with him all the way through the game, because it was decision after decision after decision that was just nowhere near. It wasn't even the 50-50 calls. You can forgive some of the 50-50 calls. These were 100% calls. This is the rule. You're not applying the rule. That's and you're only applying it in favour of the Ospreys. There was nothing in that game where you looked at and you went, Scarlets have got away with one there. Nothing. Not a single decision.
It's like going back to Nigel Owens reffing these games, isn't it?
Yeah, but Nigel used to do it, where like Nigel kind of lived within the Scarlets kind of catchment area. So when Nigel did it, and he was quite open about it, he said he wasn't fond of refereeing the Scarlets because it put him in an awkward position. So he kind of overcompensated against the Scarlets to make sure that he was seen as independent. Yeah. Craig Evans used to play for Neath. Yeah. How the hell is someone who played for some of the Neath teams at the junior level? He lives in Swansea Valley, apparently. Yeah. The commentators before the game said that he's happy with this because he's a local boy and 5 minutes and he's home, And if he's part of the Osprey's setup, how the hell is he refereeing that game? Yeah, he cannot be independent. And it's not the first time he's done it. You know, it's not the first time he's done it. If you remember Cardiff a couple of seasons ago, Christmas time as well, his Cardiff game is usually the New Year game, but he did exactly the same thing there. It was away in Cardiff, and just every time we touched the ball, he penalised us, you know. And take the red card out of that game on Boxing Day, yeah, just so remove that decision and the yellow card for Owen Williams, and you've still got about 10 incidents in that game where he didn't apply the rules equally, and that's just he should be removed from refereeing. Certainly for a referee in Welsh games, he should not be involved in Welsh games again, because he was that bad.
Yeah, well, there are no excuses, and I know the clubs have got the proper channels to go through. And obviously, Dwayne spoke up briefly after the game, because this isn't even just a one-off thing. For us, we're talking something like 11, 12 cards this season now, and when they've reported them after, I think about a third of them have been rescinded, as in, we shouldn't have given them for that.
Yeah.
So it blows the mind a bit that one team can have, more than two decisions be told are wrong in the space of a season, let alone 3 or 4 in the space of half a season. It just doesn't make sense. I'm not going to say there's obviously some form of bias against us, but it does seem that way. And I don't want to say that. I don't want to be sat here talking about the referee. That's the one thing I hate as a fan, is talking about the referee. That's the only thing, if I ever watch a game or talk about it, that's the only thing I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Because it just makes you sound bitter. And to a point, after watching that game, I am very bitter.
Yeah, me too.
Just because I like to listen to what they're saying when they're talking about potential reds or potential yellows, and you're listening to the exact wording, how they're explaining it. And the first thing he said, not the first thing, but one of the things he said with Lozana is, there's no dip, you can see him. Okay, it's not substantial, but you can see him dip before he goes into contact. And how can you blatantly say that?
Well, Rhys Davies is 6'8". Thomas Lozana is 5'9". There's a foot difference between them. How do they make head contact if he isn't dipping? Yeah. Lozana, you can see his knees are clearly bent. Yeah. And his hip is bent. So he's waiting to accept contact and go back. The guy that's running at him is a foot taller and 3 stones heavier. He isn't going to put a dominant tackle in there. He's going to accept that tackle, roll him back, and try to roll the ball to our side. Yeah? So to say that that's attempting a dominant tackle just shows that Craig Evans had no idea about what was going on in that game at all. Yeah? He's a foot taller.
It's not even, it's just that now, this is more than just Craig Evans. This is going on to the lawmakers now when we go on to look at Costy and the Owen Williams clash. And he's saying, it's a passive tackle, it's low force. It doesn't matter whether the force is coming from the carrier or the tackler. There is force involved in that contact.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter where it comes from. And I said, he stepped. It doesn't matter. You look at that back angle. Owen Williams is ready to tackle.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if he takes a step. He should be in position to tackle. He just stands there and just lets him run into him. That is more dangerous in my eyes than what Lozana did.
Because Lozana was waiting to accept the tackle and roll him back, which is what he did in that tackle. Yeah. When you roll that tackle through, he accepts contact and rolls him. Yeah. So there is no dominance in that. A dominant tackle is where you start at the tackle line and the tackling player goes forward. That's the definition of a dominant tackle.
Yeah.
Whether it's 1 inch or 3 foot. Yeah, a dominant tackle is where you go forward from the line of contact. So Lozana ended up rolling backwards because he would have done, because he's a big guy and he's that heavy. He's come through it. Whereas, I say, with Costello, again, Costello is smaller than Owen Williams. Costello is one of the smallest players on the pitch. So to say that again, both players were standing up is wrong, because Owen Williams wasn't. He was going forward into a dominant tackle, and Costello ended up coming backwards. Owen Williams ended up going forwards. Costello's out with a HIA. Costello's out now for probably the next game, definitely, and possibly the game after.
It depends on what sort of HIA he's taken. It's either, if we're lucky, it's the 7 days and he just misses the Cardiff game. No, the Cardiff game, the Dragons game. But yeah. if he's on the 12-day, the minimum standards they've now set, that's Dragons and Cardiff out. And we've seen with players before, we don't have to look very far. We look at Cubby, what a concussion can do to a player. Yeah. And this is a 21-year-old kid.
Yeah. And the referee is, with all the fuss they make nowadays about protecting the player in the head injury and contact, how can you turn around and say that wasn't this? Like you say, if anything, that was worse than the Lozano tackle, and it's just bullshit. It's bullshit from start to finish, that you cannot apply. If you map the two tackles next to each other, they are virtually identical, when the only difference is the way the player ends up. Yeah, so it's difficult to do it because Costello's going left to right and Reece going right to left, so it's difficult to map them over. But when you look at them, they're virtually mirror images of the same tackle. The difference is that Costello goes backwards and Osprey's player goes forwards. Yeah,
I mean,
Davis. Yeah,
in my mind, I honestly thought that Lozano didn't have to, get away with the yellow. I thought that was going to be a yellow, and okay, the red was there. Okay, it's a bad decision, from my point of view. But then 20 minutes later, and to see if Owen Williams had a red, and the result was the same, I wouldn't be able to say anything. I'd be here, okay, we lost, we've taken a backward step here. But Hazard, he's adjudged the same thing, the head contact, in two completely different ways. And I don't understand how, as a ref and as a team of referees, the four of them, the two touch judges and the TMO along with him, can come to those decisions.
Yeah, nobody challenged Craig Evans. Nobody from that referee team challenged Craig Evans on any of his decisions throughout that game. Yeah, every single one of them, when he said, has anybody got anything else, or is anything any different? Nobody said a word. And actually, what they should have been saying was, well, do you want to have another look at this? Yeah, do you want to have another look at that? So
yeah, for me, he's doing this. For me, he's doing that.
Yeah, but before before the Ospreys' first try, so Lozano's off the pitch. I think it's Owen Williams is coming into. No, actually, it's Kieran Williams is coming into Jonathan Davis. Costello wraps him, puts him on the floor, rolls away. Jonathan Davis comes over the top of the ball, strips the ball, and is sitting there, and then passes the ball back, ready to clear. And he calls him for not releasing. And he points to Jonathan Davis, and he says, "You didn't release the player." And Jonathan Davis is like, I wasn't the tackler, and the tackler was actually stood up next to me in the defensive line. So the player is on the floor. I've stripped the ball. How am I not releasing? I've got nothing to release. I'm not the tackler. And when he challenged him, he went back 10. Yeah. Now from that penalty, so that should have been, if anything, that should have been a Scarlet's penalty for not releasing on the floor and clear the ball up to the halfway line. Job done. Yeah. What actually happened was that was an Ospreys penalty, kick to the corner, line out, drive, blah, 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 a couple of phases, and they're in. Yeah. And that's what I mean. It's not just about that red card decision. There were decisions on every single part of that game that should have gone the other way. He didn't even come back and review it. He didn't even come back, when Jonathan Davis is standing there and he said to the ref, can you take a look at that?
And as captain, he has right to do that.
Yeah. And he went back 10. Yeah. And so somebody on Twitter or Facebook was going, Jonathan Davis is getting a bit narky with the referee. Fucking right he is. Because do you know what? If he doesn't, then, and we were talking about this earlier in the season where actually Jonathan Davis needs to be in the referee's ear a bit more. Yeah. He is absolutely in the ear now. Yeah. And at some point, those referees are going to go, well, yeah, he's got a point. Yeah. Because that was the first try. On the second, on Reece Webb's try, you look at Reece Webb's try, why is there an acre of space around the side of the ruck? Because Thomas Francis hits the side of the ruck and takes Fafita, who wasn't even in the ruck. So Francis drags Fafita into the ruck. So he's not entering at the back of the ruck. He's taken a player from outside the ruck into the ruck. Yeah. So that's obstruction. And he's created a gap for Reece Webb to run through inside the 22, which he does. Not even reviewed.
And that's not even the first time in the game it happened. It happened very blatantly later on. I'm not sure which Ospreys player it was, but it was with Javan. And he was standing by the ruck, and one Osprey player just grabbed onto his leg. And he weren't part of the ruck. Yeah. He just held onto his leg, and he was shouting at the ref. He was bashing at that arm. And the ref just looked at him and went, shrug your shoulders.
There was one ruck where Jack Morgan was coming across the pitch. Yeah, so it's Scarlett's ruck. Scarlett are taking the ball in, and the referee stands at the side. The referee tries to place himself, pretty much on the line or behind. If you can see, it's an obvious, like Scarlett's taking the ball in, and it's going to be a Scarlett's ball. He tries to put himself, out of the way so that Scarlett's can play the ball. So referee stood on the line. Yeah, so this is in the halfway between. Jack Morgan pushes the ref out of the way and hits the side of the ref, at the side of the ruck. Yeah, not coming round the back. He goes in at the side. He moved the referee out of the way so he could go into the ruck. Yeah, which didn't affect the ruck. It slowed it up a bit, but it prevented us from playing quicker ball. Yeah, because he then got taken out. But again, that was on about the halfway line. That should have been a penalty. And the way Patch was kicking, that's just, we're now attacking in their 22. Whereas instead, what happened was it was slow ball and it went out. It went another 2 phases and we lost the ball in a turnover. And so when people say, it was just a couple of decisions, it wasn't a couple of decisions. They were important decisions that affected that game. You cannot turn around and say Ospreys won that game because you can't judge whether Ospreys were a better team or not. You can judge that the referee gave, I've counted 10 decisions that affected the outcome of that game. Yeah.
There was another tackle jackal with Jonathan Davis where, he got pinged for not releasing again. And you could just see his left arm was flailing. It wasn't holding on to nothing. And he tried to use that as, evidence of not releasing. But there needs to be actual physical contact holding on to the player to be classed as not releasing. But if your arm is just resting on someone, you're not holding them down. It's the classification of the law book and how different refs apply it to different teams. And I wish we could say it was only us this happens against. It does happen to other teams with other refs, and you can go onto fans forums, you can look up any sort of grievances, and you do see it a lot, which may always makes it worse. Because if it was this ref, okay, he gets pulled up for this, and this consistently, fine, there is issues, there is work-ons, we'll do that. But when they're only coming up against certain teams, that's what does my nut in.
Well, the bit for me, so Ospreys, not the last try, but the one that kind of took the game. So they're in our 22. They've got a ruck. three players separate, still attached to each other at the back of the ruck. One of them falls over. Two of them are tight as hell, running forward. They got a 5-meter trot into our player, and they go through. Well, that's not separate. That's not continuing the ruck. You've separated from the ruck. You are still attached to a player. That's illegal. That's you cannot go into contact already attached to a player. So, that's, for me, that's 3 tries that Ospreys have scored that they're not even 50-50 decisions, and that referee has gone, actually, yeah, that's fine, not even reviewed them. And when everybody does their video review after the game, and I hope when Craig Evans does his video review after that game, and he should do it with someone like Nigel Owens or whatever, he sits there and he goes, "Oh, I've balls this one up," and that's what's needed now. If he doesn't put his hand up and say, "Look, I got some decisions wrong there," and something doesn't happen to him, yeah, like. Remember Whitehouse in the Dragons game earlier in the year? Whitehouse got removed from refereeing. Whitehouse got put up in the TMO box, yeah, because of that game. So he didn't referee a game. I think he was refereeing Premiership games, Welsh Premiership games after that. But anything in the URC, he was up in the box. He was TMO. I think he's only just started coming back to refereeing games. So if something similar doesn't happen to Craig Evans, you start looking at who's refereeing your game, yeah, and that is not good for any referee anyway, because straight away you'll start getting more referee abuse, and you'll start getting players taking the game into their own hands. And you saw that with some of the Scarlets, There were scuffles, there were this, that, and the other, because the referee wasn't refereeing rucks. The amount of offsides, and even on kicks, the amount of offsides from both sides on kicks just wasn't refereed at all. So players start taking that into their own hands, and they go, right, well, if you're not going to, stop them coming through on the floor, if you're not going to force them to come round the back in a ruck, and you're going to allow him to come in from the side, well, I'm going to go in from the side and I'm going to take him out myself. And that's what started happening. And he lost control of so much of that game by the start of the second half. So I'm still livid. I'm still absolutely livid, because he makes referees, he opens up other referees to abuse now. It really does.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're probably not going to see any sort of repercussions. As you said with Ben Whitehouse, it was an incident with him. People think he ended up going out to New Zealand for the Women's World Cup as well, which is not of I just don't understand how they can be a step forward in the right direction. I know they recently brought in, they've changed up the refereeing assessments after games, where instead of it only being, WRU controls, WRU refs, etc. I know it's under one roof now, but it's still, someone at the top. The Nigel Owens is ours. He is still responsible for all the WRU refs. So yeah, there is going to be, some things challenged, etc. But we are not going to hear nothing about it, and it's going to be a slap on the wrist more than anything else. Just because we've got so few refs. There's our progression systems for coaches and referees, we know in Wales is absolutely poor. So the ones that we got there, we're not going to willingly knock them back a step.
But if they're not going to do something about that, about his performance, then one, he's not going to improve. Yeah. So just letting him carry on with the next game and going, that wasn't great, but carry on. Yeah, that's not going to help him improve. It genuinely is. If that was a player, yeah, and you've got a player that's making 10, 12 mistakes during a game, you don't put them in the next game and go, okay, carry on, don't worry about it. Yeah, you take that player back and you go, right, we've got some stuff to work on, so let's take it back to the Premiership and let's look at this. Yeah, let's work on your line out throw, let's work on your out of hand kicking, let's work on your defense or whatever. Yeah, but let's do it away from that limelight, because if he now goes into the next game, every single decision he makes in that next game gets analysed to the nth degree, and it then builds. And it's like, if it had just been the red and the yellow card, then I could almost live with that, yeah, because to me that's, he's given what he's seen, and it should be the TMO that then intervenes and says, right, hang on, this is an important decision, let's look at it, yeah. So that didn't happen. But if it was just those two incidents, then I wouldn't be so annoyed. But there were things like, there were rucks where the Ospreys player, just standing on the side of the ruck, sticks a boot to the ball. Yeah, so it's in the Scarlet side. He comes in from the side of a ruck, sticks a boot to the ball, and fair enough, it ends up in a Scarlet's player hand, but that's still a Scarlet's penalty.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it was, so Ospreys are now attacking, they're defending in an attacking way instead of Scarlets being ready to stick the ball down into the Ospreys 22 and things like that. So, there was so much in that game that referee got wrong that, from his own development point of view, he needs to go away and think, hang on, this isn't the first time I've fucked up a Scarlets game. So there's something inside him that's going, I don't like Scarlets. Yeah, genuinely, and without going into a lot of detail, I've sat around a table with him where we've had a bit of a laugh and a joke, and that's what he's kind of said. Yeah, and we all took it as a joke. This is a long time ago, don't get me wrong. Yeah, when I was reffing, and it was all kind of a joke and a laugh and a joke, and you just think, he's a professional referee. I didn't know at the time that he was a Swansea boy, but he said something along the lines of, I've never liked the Scarlets, yeah, and then you take that, what I then took as a joke, and you watch his performance against the Scarlets and you go, well, maybe he wasn't joking. Maybe there's something inside him that goes, yeah, actually, I'm an Osprey and I just cannot bring myself to do that. If I was refereeing now, I would not accept a game where the Ospreys are playing, because I know, deep inside me, there's that Scarlet Ospreys kind of a feeling. So, yeah, like Nigel Owens used to purposely be hard on the Scarlets to avoid people saying that he was in favour of the Scarlets, because that's where he lived. So
I don't know what it's like at the minute, but I'm sure I can remember a time where at the start of every season, whenever you're re-signing up for your referee or whatever, you had to name the team that you support so that you could be removed from any sort of, I can't even think of the word now, just removing bias. You've got to say, okay, this is where I'm from, this is my team,
so I'm not going to be
involved. You're not allowed to ref those teams. You're not allowed to ref any big decision in that league. End of. But it just doesn't seem to be there at the minute, and you can see it everywhere, not just in Wales.
But the idea is that he's a professional referee, so he should be able to be independent. Yeah, he's still a human being. He's still, he
still wants his team to win.
Yeah. And, with the best will in the world, that's twice he's done it against the Scarlets, where he's just given decisions that, I've got Ospreys mates that are laughing at it and going, I've got no idea why he gave that decision, mate. They'll take it because it's a win, But when you're on the wrong side of it, for me, it just debases the URC. Because I'm at the point now where if the WRU said, right, we're going down to 3 teams, and the English Premiership said, right, there's room for somebody in the English Premiership, I'd go, let's go. It's that bad that I'd rather go and play in an English league that I can't stand the English league and the hype and the best league in the world and all of this bollocks, because it isn't. Yeah, I would rather go and play in that league than continue to play with the refereeing standards that we have at the minute, because at least, in the English league, the refereeing standard is actually very, very good. And that's how bad Craig Evans was in that game, where, and I'm not the only one doing it, saying, if he's refereeing now in Judgment Day, I'm not going. Simple. End of. Not going.
Oh, Cardiff's a bit far for you anyway, isn't it?
But any game that he's refereeing in now, we went through a period of, well, if Whitehouse is refereeing, I'm not going. Yeah. And I'm now in, well, if Craig Evans is going as refereeing, I'm not going. That when the referee is the most influential factor in that game, that's not, you're not testing who plays rugby better. You're testing who does the referee like most, and that's what that game was on Boxing Day, was who does the referee like the most. And I think to come out of it the way we came out of it, but when they go and do the review, Scarlett's go and do the review of that game, and they'll sit there and they'll go, you challenge players about what did we do here, what did we do there, and 80% of what we got wrong will be, well, actually, we got that right. We did turn that ball over. We were coming from the right side of the ruck. We were competing in that ruck correctly. They were, how do you then, as a coach, how do you then assess that game without going, the referee got this wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried watching the game back a couple more times, and I can only see two glaring errors from us, and it involved the two tries. It involved Reece Webb's try with Tom Price's attempt to tackle on Webb.
But Fafita got taken out before.
No, I know.
The reason the gap was there was because Fafita got taken out. So
yeah, I know that's the reason, but obviously we still look at what could we have done, how could we have stopped that, because I'd easily put three of their tries down to the 14-man influence if we try and take the referee decisions out of the game. And then their last try, I don't understand what quite happened, but it just seemed as though, I think it was Kieran Williams, he just walked through Scott Williams. I'm really not sure what happened with that. I've tried looking at it, and I'm like, so all I can see is Scott Williams sort of spinning in the air, and I'm like, what's happened with there? But those are the only two areas which were majorly impactful that we could have probably done better. The rest of the game, the boys defended their heart out. You're 75 minutes playing 14 men, and you only conceded 5 tries. That is a hell of a shift. Those boys defended their hearts out, and I've got no complaints with how they stood up and how they performed in that sort of adversity.
Well, there was a moment late in the second half where I think we dropped out, and Ethan Roots had a good 20-meter run, and he was coming at Josh McLeod full pelt, and McLeod just went nice and low, dislodged the ball, and stuck him on his ass. And Ethan Roots is trying to go, yeah, I took it. You didn't do anything, mate. You lost the ball. You got one player who's been playing 2 positions the whole game, and at 60 minutes, he's put you on your ass, and you've lost the ball.
It was a big it to it.
It was massive.
Textbook. Oh, it is absolutely. It was perfect. I mean, as a coach yourself, you know that you see the body position, you see the head position, you see the shoulders, and then the things we always do with the kids, the ring of steel, and you can just see Ethan Root's legs just being squashed together and being put on his ass. And it is textbook. It is perfect. If you want to coach someone how to tackle, that is a good video. Just plaster that up and go, look at what he's doing. Look at his body position. Look how low he's getting. His head position, his shoulder position, his arms wrapping and really squeezing. Everything about that tackle was correct.
So I've then got so on our social media channels, a couple of obviously non-Scarlet supporters have tried to wind us up and let them carry on. Let them, I'm just ignoring them. But saying about Josh McLeod's trailing leg against the winger. What's the really slow winger? The one that got caught by Fafita. He got chased down by Fafita, and then he got chased down by McLeod, and then he tried to step McLeod. So anyway, yeah, he stepped inside McLeod, and McLeod tries to adjust position. Yeah, and he goes into McLeod's leg, but yeah, that's not a yellow card. No, because
I watched that back, and I honestly thought McLeod had broken his leg. I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of fracture in it. Even I know he continued on for a few minutes, but the way his leg bent, just watching it around, I honestly thought that he broke his leg. The way he was the way he was on the floor as well. I'm really not hopeful for a positive outcome with McLeod. I think he's done especially some pretty big damage for there.
And the same knee that he's damaged a couple of times now, isn't it? And yeah, I've seen Osprey supporters, trying to take the piss and he's hurt his knee and this, that, and the other. McLeod had more turnovers than Jack Morgan did in that game. Yeah, Jack Morgan gets man of the match. McLeod put the work rate in of 2 players. He turned over more balls. I'm not sure how many times. I haven't seen the stats on how many tackles he made, but he had more turnovers than Jack Morgan. Jack Morgan had 1 turnover, and that was right at the very end of the game, whereas McLeod was turning Ospreys over throughout the game. And so to turn around and say that Jack Morgan was a better outbound side is wrong. So yeah, I thought McLeod had a really good game, especially playing 2 positions, and it was hard to see. It's hard to say anybody else had a good game because anytime anybody touched the ball, they were getting pinged. And it knocks your confidence really early in the game. When you're like that really early in the game, it knocks your confidence going forward. And if Ospreys think that was I think this is the bit that disappoints me most about, Welsh supporters in general now, right? That it's gone to this kind of like almost football kind of reaction to stuff where they're not actually looking at what's there. I turn the commentators off when I'm watching a game now, and then I'll put them back on when I'm rewatching the game. And if you watch a game without the commentators, your opinion of that game is so different from the commentators. So different. And then you see things on social media where they're just repeating what the commentator said. Yeah. So there was an incident in that game where we were attacking under their posts. Yeah, it's the one where we got held up over the line. Yeah, where Reece Webb has got Elias by the neck. Yeah, so Elias has got the ball. He's handed it back, but Reece Webb has got him by the neck and he's pulling him up like this. Yeah, Reece Webb then steps out of the ruck. Yeah, because Elias has a little bit of a chat with it. So that should have been a penalty to us under the posts anyway. Yeah. So Elias then takes Webb out of the ruck and they have a little chat off to the side. And I think it's Kieran Williams or somebody holds a ball up over the line. And the commentators are going, that's a brilliant how Reece Webb has got under the ball then. Reece Webb was 5 meters away from the ruck. Yeah. And the commentators are going, what a brilliant hold up there by Reece Webb. 1, he had him by the neck. That should have been a penalty. And 2, he wasn't in the ruck when it went over the line. Yeah. So, and that's why I don't listen to commentators now. I look at what's happening on the pitch and I look at, I will switch the commentary on if there's something there that you can't see on camera or you can't work out or something. And you'll see if there's something happening that you're not aware of. Yeah. And we've lost that ability as supporters to assess that game for ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I just think 90% of that game was out of our hands, and it's going to live hard in the memories of these boys, which is not fair. I know the European games are a bit different standard. Cheetahs only playing like 3 or 4 games coming into that match. But we were on a nice positive upturn, couple of good performances in South Africa, good couple of wins, and it's as though everything has been drained out of us with that, and none of it was our own doing.
No.
And it's just we're gonna be it's gonna be hard now, because if we look at the fallout from this game, that has ended our URC season. There's no ifs, no buts. We can only get 49 points now, and that's if we take 5 points in every single game for the rest of the season. And 8th place last year was 50 points. So even if we max out, we're still falling a point shy of the top 8. So that's done and dusted. We've only got Europe as our main focus now. So there's so many.
But you look at decisions in the first Ospreys game. There were decisions in that game that cost us the game. There were decisions in the Ulster game that cost us that game. Yeah. So it's not like
a one-off.
Yeah. There's people calling for Dwayne Peel to go and this, that, and the other. They're not Scarlet supporters. Because do you know what? If you're a Scarlet supporter, you go and look at that game and you go, right, let's actually look at what's happening in that game. And it's not, we're not where we want to be. Obviously, we're not. But at the same time, I think you've got to look at what's happened around us and go, okay, we're actually better than what that table shows. And what I hope happens now after that game is we start to develop a real kind of defend the castle kind of mentality. Yeah, where you go, right, okay, the world is against us. Yeah, you want to bill us as the bad boys, we'll show you what the bad boys do. Yeah, it's a bit like so if you follow NFL, the LA Raiders back in the late 80s, 90s, early 90s, were just well, they people started giving them a reputation of the bad boys. Yeah, they were having players banned left, right, and centre, and they were aggressive. But what they did was they attracted some really, really big players. They recruited the big players, the players who were nasty, the players who had an edge to them, the players who would, say they recruited a load of players who would enforce the rules themselves. Yeah, and it developed a big kind of following of people who, were on the side of the underdog. Yeah, and they improved because of it. And I can see us doing that. I can see us just going, right, okay, if you want to treat us like that, you treat us like that. Yeah. And we will look after our own, and we will make sure that we develop players who actually just, if you're coming in at the side of the rock, well, then you're going back with a set of broken ribs. Yeah. It's as simple as that. Yeah. We will
bring back rocking without the cameras.
But the whole point of bringing in the TMO was to make sure that decisions got made correctly, and it wasn't about let's keep the game going. It was to make sure that decisions were made correctly. And now we're so scared of taking time to make that decision correctly that there's almost no point in having a TMO there. Yeah, so that's where enforcers come back into the game, and you go, right, if you're going to come around the side of a ruck, I'm going to send you back around. I'm going to enforce the rules. Yeah. And that's how we're going to do it. If you're going to come and try and collapse my line out, then I'm going to make sure when you're on the floor, that that's not acceptable. Yeah. And that's where we'll get to. And I think we'll be a better team for it. I think coming out of that game, I think the Cardiff game now, they'll be, Cardiff were lucky against Newport. Well, they had Whitehouse refereeing. So, the Dragons should have won that game they should have had that game wrapped up before the last 10 minutes, as far as I can see. But again, it depends on who's reffing that Cardiff game, because if it's Craig Evans, well, I think if Craig Evans gets named as the referee in that game, Scarlett would be quite in their rights to go, no, we want a different ref. Yeah.
I was, I've seen, look, I know many times in my life, but, when that Win Williams decision came, I've seen captains and people at that point, when you see something that badly biased from again, there, I take their team. And, I was thinking in my mind at that point, because you saw the match live, you see it, and then the play went on for a little bit, and I was thinking, he's not looking at this. And, I thought, if he, I know they're professionals and whatnot. If he decides to go and tell his boys, we're going off the pitch, I'd have no fault with him whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. And I think until somebody stands up and says, actually, this is not acceptable, the standard of refereeing, the standard of TMOs is not acceptable in this league. Until somebody stands up and says that and gets a bit of a bollocking for it, because they will. You look at Ronan O'Gara in Pro 14, and he's absolutely behind his side, but he is, though, isn't he? He's absolutely 100% behind his players, and he'll call out a
he had now. He's only...
Yeah, but what's happening is they're looking at referees now and going, actually, has he got a point? Yeah, and sometimes you need somebody to stand up and go, we're going to call this out, So in the interview after the game, send someone like Emma Phillips in and say, right, okay, go slag the ref off. Yeah, you're gonna get a ban for this. Yeah, you're gonna get a ban, so you're gonna be off the sidelines for 6 games or whatever. But go and do that for us and take one for the team. Yeah, and just go, right, okay, and start rotating it that way, because somebody's got to do something, because if we carry on, then people lose their jobs. Within the Scarlets, people start losing their jobs. We know we're going to shrink the squad size next year, and if performances continue the way they are, on paper, then it becomes very difficult to say, yeah, we're going to stick with that current format of coaches. Whereas actually, we've played some really good rugby. When we get refereed correctly, when we get refereed fairly, we actually play some really good rugby. And that game against the Ospreys should have been a really competitive game. But the referee stopped that after 3 minutes. And then he made sure of it after 5. And, how you just can't assess that game without considering the effect of the referee. I mean,
well, we've taken, if I want to get this right, I think we've taken 8 losses, this season. And I can honestly say that, 4 or 5 of them, it could have very well gone the other way easily. And, the entire season changes, and a couple of them are the ref, a couple of them are our own doing. But at the same time, when you said there's people calling for Peely's head, and you're just like, I hate using the word inexperience. I'm going to use the word young. He's a young head coach. He's learning as a head coach. If you don't give someone time, which obviously is a football thing at the minute, it's always been a football thing. You got 3 months, otherwise we're sacking out. If you don't give a head coach 3-4 years, you're not going to see any improvement. This is still, I've said it many times, this still isn't Dwayne Peel's team. This is still very much Glenn Delaney's side. Yeah. And Peel is doing whatever he can to make it work. And if you take all the outside influences, you take the COVID influences, you take the WRU, the money agreement, they're still, even next year, still not going to be Dwayne's side, because he's not going to be able to recruit anyone now.
No.
We're basically, we know we got an agent squad. We know we need to replenish a lot. There's no taken away from now. We know the job that we got on our hands. We know we're in a transition phase and it's going to be a while. But for people to come out and call for a head coach's head when you look at everything he's got up against him, it does boggle my mind a bit. Did you live in the real world? There is literally, it doesn't matter if you think Gatland's the best coach in the world or Sean Edwards. It doesn't matter if they come in. They're not going to improve anything.
No.
You can't improve on something without making change, and you can't make change when you physically can't make change.
Yeah, and to be fair to him, we're playing much better rugby now than we were last season. We've said it's about consistency and this, that, and the other, but then you look at who we got injured. So Samson Lee, Wyn Jones in the front row. We've got so Joe Roberts is on his way back from injury. I think he played for Llanelli against Swansea.
Yeah, he's been in the Llanelli lineup for a couple of weeks. I think Boxing Day was the first time a game wasn't called off for him. So it's good to see him back. If we look at our injury list right now, we got Tom Rogers, who we've got no idea about. We haven't really been told the extent of his injury. Johnny Williams is due back for these games, so where he's at. Jack Price is another one who even when he's been fit, we haven't seen a lot of him, which has been quite a surprise to me. But we don't know anything about him. Harry O'Connor, he has been probably one of our best players this season, but he broke his hand against the Stormers, and that's a 3 to 6 week injury, and it's coming up to 5 weeks now. So we could potentially see him. And Wyn Jones, I don't know what the issue with Wyn Jones is. It's very much the same as Ken Owens last year. We didn't really have an idea of what the injury was, and then he spent about an age out.
Well, it's something to do with his leg, because his leg was in plaster. So whether it was a knee or a bone or something, but yeah, and Samson Lee the same. Just we know
Samson. We know Samson's out for a while. We know we're not seeing him this season. Hopefully, he'll be involved in some sort of preseason, because from what I have seen, because of the World Cup, the URC season isn't going to be starting in the semi-final weekend. So there's not going to be any fixtures for the entire of September and half of October. So it's going to be, obviously that needs confirming. But from what I've seen, that's a good 6 to 8 weeks of a season. We're starting late, so it's going to be really hard to really. Hopefully, he'll do good on the injury front. He'll have, boys have a nice big break and then a nice big preseason. But at the same time, if you're thinking when the season's not starting until the middle of October, it's a brand new,
the end of the season further out again, doesn't it? Yeah. I just think some of the injuries that we've got are just such long-term injuries that it is hard to see how we can build a squad when we've got that many people out injured.
When our main loose head and our main tight head are injured, and that is the cornerstone of your forwards. If you can't build a good scrum, I know Harry O'Connor's been awesome this season. Stefan Thomas and Kemsley Mathias have both stood up really well, but they're not British Lion class as in Wyn Jones. Harry O'Connor, he probably will get to the level of Samson Lee. He's still a kid himself, and for me, he's already ahead of Will Griff and Javan Sebastian, and he should have been capped a few times, because Sam Wainwright is obviously not showing anything in training because he's not even be considered for these games.
And that's the bit that kind of flummoxed me. I was very supportive of him coming in. There's obviously something about him. Because
it was a WRU decision.
Yeah,
it was 100% a WRU decision to keep him for that Australia game, which he did nothing in.
Yeah, and that's why you hope. I mean, I think Will Griff John has actually started to show a little bit of the promise that was there, but it's not enough right now.
I mean, he went off the pitch around 25 minutes, and I can't for the life of me find out why. I know he was bleeding from the top of his head, but I can't find out why he went off.
Yeah.
Like I can't hear in any match report or going through the Scarlet's tweets or anything when the sub was made, and there's just no information on why he went off.
Yeah.
Was it a point of I know we were struggling in the scrum, but was it a point of we were thinking it was Will Griff's fault because Nicky Smith they spent the whole day going at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah,
but
and that's what I mean. I think he started to kind of show what he can do, particularly in the loose. He's really started to up his game. But I mean, the Scarlets have got a good academy system in place, but it's whether or not we bring those players through at a sufficient enough level. But what I am liking this year is the amount of players who are not involved in the matchday squad who are getting game time with Llanelli and Carmarthen and Llandovery. Not so much Llandovery. It seems like we have kind of...
I think Iestyn Rhys is the only one involved with Llandovery, isn't he?
Oh, I didn't realise he was a...
I think he's the only one.
Right, okay. So, yeah, but at least we're doing something, and compare that to the last couple of seasons where players would maybe be without a game for like 4 or 5 weeks if they weren't involved in the matchday squad. So I think that's kind of building the experience in the squad a lot better than it has been in the past. And fingers crossed, it will take time for us to see the benefit of it, but we will see the benefit of it. So
yeah, and a positive from the game, we got to see Carwyn Tuipulotu, come on the pitch again for the first time this season, which is obviously it's a good thing all round. He was looking pretty good at the end of last season, and another positive is Sam Lowsey. He was only pulled out because he birthed his second child. So congratulations, to him and his partner Sina. I hope I pronounced that right. But
is that the name? Is it?
No, that's his partner's name. I don't know what the name is.
I was going to say. Because all I saw was they've had a baby. And you're like, that's nice, Christmas time and all of that kind of stuff. But didn't really see much more than that. So
no, that's exactly the same. All I've got is Sam Lowsey and partner Cena welcome the birth of their second child. So congratulations to him. But you're last man for the Dragons game.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Dragons game then. Let's assume that we get a decent referee, not Craig Evans and not Ben Whitehouse. Let's assume that it's a decent referee. What are your expectations for that game?
My expectations have now massively changed. I mean, like I said earlier, the league is now over. So our focus has got to be on, Europe, building our style of play and, working on who's going to be around next season. So I'm expecting a few changes. I am expecting that we're going to switch up as much as we can to really solidify a nice core of, let's say, 10, 12 players who are going to be here for the next 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to see a nice spine for the rest of the season. At least that's what I would personally do. I would be looking at, this is my squad. This is what my squad is going forward. I'm going to be using the players who are, next season and season after, if, they're contracted that far. And I'm going to be, bringing my youngsters in around bringing the likes of the Eddie James, the Joe Roberts, even, I don't know if he's quite ready, but with Callum Williams' injury, there's this young kid in the under-18s, this Yolo Griffiths, who could be drafted in, you never know.
No, God, no. Oh, my God, I'd never hope his head wouldn't be able to get through a door, mate.
Oh, no, I listened last week, and he perked up a bit when he said he'd been name dropped, no? But no, I can see, I'm hoping to see a lot more younger players be given a good run of 4 or 5 games now.
I'm hoping someone like Ewan Shenton can start coming through in the back row. Dan Davis had a good couple of games. So if we've got Dan Davis, Ewan Shenton, Tuipulotu come in as a back row, you need players like Callum Ofomni and Lausi, Fafita, to give them a bit of solidity. but those three as a back row going forward, especially if we're expecting McLeod to be out injured for a while. So I think that's a good balanced kind of back row. Shenton can play left and right,
Anyway.
play open and blind. So yeah, when we talk about let's build for the future, I'd say we need to target the Dragons game. I'd say we target the Dragons game and definitely the Cardiff game, and then so that we are going into Europe and going, right, this is, we're on a bit of a roll, if you like. But for me, I'd say the Dragons game is a must-win now. It's a must-win. Just from the confidence more than anything. Because
there's no reason why we can't win every game to the end of the season. I think the most difficult game we've got left is Munster away, but I think that's during the Six Nations. So there's no reason. Like, I'm not going to say we're going to sit here and we're going to get 5-pointers every single game, but there's no reason why we can't get a good 6, 7, 8 victories out of the league.
We're definitely capable. We got the side to do it. That side is there, provided the referee was, fair and even. I can see the Dragons game being one almighty backlash from us. I think the Dragons have kind of given everything they can in that Cardiff game. Will be feeling quite deflated because they did enough to win that game. They should have won that game, and they'll be quite disappointed and quite down. Whereas I think our players will be quite angry and quite wound up. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a different reaction.
I think there's going to be a bit of an added effect, knowing that Di Flans is now their head coach. I think there's going to be a bit of a bit of a salt to rub in. You were ours. When you pissed off. We're going to show you made a bad choice.
So, yeah. So what's your prediction then for the Dragons game? What's your score prediction for that one then?
My score prediction is I'm not going to go for a heavy score line. I think we are going to win. I think it's going to be somewhere around 25-18 single score game, but I think it's going to be a really big physical tussle. I think we are just going to look to basically dominate physically absolutely everything we can. Every single collision, every single tackle, we put everything into it. And just that sort of reaction, not we're going to play champagne rugby, we're going to run rings around you. I think we're going to try and beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, me too. I'd give you something like 6-3. And if we come out of it 6-3, or even 3-0 with a penalty on 80 minutes, to be honest, I'd take that just because we need that confidence to go and say, right, okay, there's another win chalked up. So I think winning is everything in this game now, and yeah, there's a style of play that we need to do. But like I was saying last week with the under-18s, the under-18s last week were still trying to maintain playing a high skill, offloads and this, that, and the other, when it was absolutely chucking it down and blowing a gale. Whereas Cardiff, just every time they had the ball, they hoofed it 50 meters down the pitch. So there needs to be a little bit of leadership on the pitch, and we go, do you know what? Let's just take a step back and win this game. And if that means we got to just do driving lineouts constantly, then let's do that, because it's more important to win this game than it is to play wild, exciting, fantastic rugby at the minute. Would be my thought. Anyway.
Yeah, well, being as though you've brought up the under-18s, there's not going to be another podcast before their next game. So as we are hosting the Dragons on New Year's Day, they are hosting the Dragons on the 4th at the park as well, I believe.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah. Let's get a big crowd for that game as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. I know the boys are training through this weekend and through next week. And in all honesty, like I said last week, they did look good. The handling was good. The defense was better. They just got kicked all over the park by by Cardiff. It was, we didn't play the conditions as well as Cardiff did. We were trying to play fancy handling, knocking the ball on Cardiff, and we were beating Cardiff in the scrum, but they were securing their ball, and then hoof it 50 metres down the pitch. Then we'd try and play the fancy handling, we'd knock it on, same sort of a thing. So if we can learn from that, I think a lot of the Dragons boys were there watching that game in Cardiff, because they all know each other and what have you. So yeah, fingers crossed. I think it should be 2 decent wins against the Dragons at the park in the space of a week.
So Friday afternoon for seniors, Monday evening for the under-18s.
Is that when it is? Of course, yes. It's first, and we're playing on the first, aren't we? And then the 4th. Oh my God! I got to readjust my diary now, mate, because
it's a new year. It's a new diary.
Yeah, hang on. No, yeah, when's the 4th? 4th is a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 1st is a Sunday. 4th is a Wednesday. Yeah, you're panicking me now, man. Yeah, I'm sure we're playing on the 4th.
Oh my God. When I saw the 1st and the 4th, I was thinking, it's got to be a Friday, Monday. It's got to be. No, I'm wrong. My apologies to everyone out there.
You're panicking the shit out of me. Oh, good Lord. Right, on that note, my friend, we will catch up and do this again next week after the Dragons game. Hopefully we can talk rugby. Hopefully we can have a game where we can just talk about the rugby and what goes on the pitch, which would be nice. It would be a nice way of
starting
doing
the year.
it. Yeah. So
hopefully we'll have a bit of local rugby to talk about as well.
Well, there's no games, is it? It was the only game in the league was Haverfordwest and Langham. And I'll be honest, I didn't.
Let's not talk about the score. Don't talk about the score.
I didn't check the score. I didn't see it. I didn't see what it was.
You don't want to know 66-5.
To Haverfordwest, yeah.
Yeah, it was. That's a hell of a beatdown. But no, we'll have a prediction next week. The games are back on the 7th.
Yeah, we'll do a proper job next week.
We'll get to talk about it. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
Hopefully less bitch in the morning.
Yeah. Right, well, have a good New Year, my friend. I shall probably see you at the park on New Year's Day. I'm planning on making it, but it does depend on the referee and the weather. But yeah, I should be there on New Year's Day, so hopefully we'll have a bit of a catch up before the game anyway. And if not, I shall catch up with you next week.
See you
all
then.
The best, Mark. Cheers, mate.
And to you. Ta-da.
Ta-da, mate. You have been listening to the Westerer is Besterer podcast from the Scarlet Supporters PEMS team. You can follow us on Twitter on Scarlet PEMS, find us on Facebook with Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire, or email us on scarletspems@gmail.com. And remember, West is best, but Westerer is Besterer. Cheers.
Sports Social Podcast Network.